So what if I told you I would pay you $126 million to sit courtside for 400 NBA games and not play? You would take that, right? Well, that's exactly what's going on with Joel Embiid right now. Let's dive into this. As I talk about one of the greatest scams in NBA history, and no, we're not talking about lottery conspiracies, not talking about referees fixing games. We're diving deep into a player who has fooled fans, analysts, and even the league itself for years. Yes, the reigning MVP from 2023, the so-called best big man in the league, doesn't even really play basketball. But what if I told you that he has been running a long con, one that has allowed him to collect accolades, massive contracts, and endless praise, while never delivering when it matters most? But let's start at the very beginning. Joel Embiid was drafted 3rd overall in 2014. But before he ever stepped on an NBA court, he was already on the injured list. A foot injury sidelined him for at least 2 full seasons. Now, most players who miss 2 years before even playing a game would have their careers in jeopardy. But not Embiid. Instead, the Sixers used his absence as an excuse to tank even harder, stockpiling picks while fans brought into the trust the process movement. But here's the interesting thing. Those 2 years gave Embiid something most rookies never get: time to develop without any pressure to perform. He wasn't grinding through rookie struggles, he was in the background, improving, getting bigger, stronger, and studying the NBA without having to play a single minute. And finally, he hit the court in 2016, 2 years after being drafted, and he played just 31 games before being shut down again. More injuries, more excuses, more patience from fans who had been conditioned to believe that waiting for Embiid was part of the process. But how did he scam the NBA, and more importantly, the fans? Well, he manipulated expectations from the start, and his statistics really didn't add up. By the time he was actually playing full seasons, the media treated him like he was already a superstar, when in reality, he had barely played any meaningful basketball and had no track record of any sort of accolades. But at least he's growing, and he's a skilled big man, and he's going to build that, right? Well, if we talk about Embiid's playstyle, if you watch him dominate a random January game, you might think he's one of the most skilled big men of all time. But look closer. What is Embiid's real skill? Is it footwork? Is it mid-range shooting? No, it's flopping and getting free throws and making them. Joel Embiid has turned drawing fouls into a form of art. At 7 feet tall, 280 pounds, he plays like he's 6'1" and 180. Whenever he feels the slightest contact, he flails, throws his arms in the air, and falls to the floor. Every single game, like he's been hit by a freight train. And half of the time, the people shoving him are people like Marcus Smart, who is 6'4" and 200 pounds and could not shove a man 7 foot across an entire NBA court. But the worst part is, the refs buy it every time. He leads the league in free throw attempts year after year, often scoring nearly half his points from the line. Think about that. Imagine if Shaquille O'Neal got to shoot 15 plus free throws per game and he actually hit them. He would have averaged 50. But Embiid, he's not overpowering you. He's tricking you. And this is where the scam gets even worse. In the playoffs, when the refs swallow their whistles, Embiid disappears. Suddenly, that 33 point per game average drops, and the dominant MVP turns into just another guy struggling to get a bucket out there. So the scam mainly is just that he is not as dominant as his numbers suggest. He's just one of the greatest free throw merchants in the NBA. And if you can flop and get 100 points a game, I'm not going to hate on you for it. But what I will hate on you for is stealing an MVP from one of the greatest big men to ever play the game. The 2023 season was definitely a roller coaster, with the Nuggets winning their first ever NBA championship. It was just kind of a left field experience, and Jokic was having one of the most dominant seasons of all time. For years, Embiid finished second to Nikola Jokic in MVP rating. And why? Because Jokic is actually impacting winning. He wasn't flopping for free throws, he wasn't missing 20 plus games every season, he was playing basketball and doing it the right way. But in 2023, the NBA media decided that it was finally Embiid's turn. Despite playing fewer games than Jokic, despite having a way worse impact on the court, and despite disappearing in big moments, he was handed the award because of voter fatigue. And what happened right after? Well, the start of Joel Embiid's playoff meltdown. In Game 7 versus the Celtics, he had 15 points on 5 made shots in an elimination game. The so-called MVP let his team get blown out while Jason Tatum dropped 51 points. And when asked about it, he blamed his teammates. Now, I've been searching the internet for about 15 minutes trying to find any clip of Jokic complaining about his teammates or saying anything bad, and I haven't found one. This was supposed to be the guy to take Philly up to the chip and get him a ring, get him a banner. But instead, he convinced the world that he was better than Jokic for one season, got the award, and then promptly reminded everyone why he never should have won it in the first place. It's just always confusing why whenever Embiid fails, it's never his fault. In 2019, they lost to the Raptors and he was sick. In 2021, they lost to the Hawks, he was injured. In 2023, lost to the Celtics, and him and James Harden couldn't do it alone. At what point do fans stop accepting these excuses? And at what point do we realize that he is the common denominator in every Sixers playoff failure? The truth is, Embiid has been scamming the NBA for years. He's not the best center in the league, he is not a real MVP, and he's not a winner. He's a talented player, maybe, but he's built a reputation bigger than his actual impact. So what is the real process? Well, it's scamming his way to MVPs, all-star selections, and max contracts while never playing, never delivering when it matters most, and blaming everybody else. So, next time you see Joel Embiid dominate in a regular season game, just remember, it's a part of the scam. Because when the playoffs roll around, when the whistles stop, when the real legends step up, the truth is revealed. Joel Embiid isn't the best center in the NBA. He's just the best at making people believe that he is. But, do you think that Joel Embiid likes music? Well, everybody does, and I just dropped a new single on all platforms. You can check it out or click the link in the description. The song is called Impatient by Guappo, and I'm about to play y'all a little snippet of it. Stream Guappo, I appreciate y'all. Click the sub button. Peace.
Spin a rack on my shoe, bitch, I never been basic. And these Cartier shits, bitch, I had to get lazy. Man, you old ass bitch, and you still rocking Asics. Go buy a bitch, man, I'm getting